Hi guys, today I'm going to be talking about the news that's happened in boxing over the last week. A lot of it's going to be based on Devin Haney and the 140-pound division, I think. So I'm just going to start it off with something that's not about Haney to start off with. Benavidez wants to fight Charlo on the Canelo undercard. This is David Benavidez Senior. No, David Benavidez, sorry, against Jamal Charlo, the guy who fought his brother a couple of weeks ago. I feel like that would be a good fight. I think Benavidez would probably win that. I think that would be Benavidez's hardest fight to date. Hopefully, if Charlo comes into it with the right mindset, I think it's a good idea to fight them on the Canelo undercard, so then he can link up with Canelo's fight schedule. But then if he fights Charlo, it asks the question, who's Canelo going to fight? Because Canelo's rumoured to be fighting either Charlo or Munguia, and Munguia's fighting in January, which I doubt he'd then fight in May after fighting John Ryder, but you never know. There's also been rumours about Carlos Adames, not as much now, but Carlos Adames moving up from £160 to fight Canelo, which I don't really see the point of, because Canelo's just had a fight against a much smaller guy, and he's also Carlos Adames is mandatory for the WBC £160, not the £168. David Benavidez is mandatory for the £168, so I think Adames should fight Charlo if Charlo stays at £160, not the other way around. Guess we'll have to see what happens with this, but I don't think Canelo's going to be fighting Benavidez in May, unfortunately. I don't like his comments about how he fights someone and then they say, oh, you're ducking another guy, because no one's going to say that if you fight Benavidez. If you fight Benavidez, everyone's going to respect that. Even if you lose, I think everyone will respect that he's fighting David Benavidez, who's basically like a light heavyweight. Canelo usually fights at super middleweight, David Benavidez fights at super middleweight, but he's basically a light heavyweight with his size. He's just massive for the weight. So I think everyone will respect that from Canelo if he goes on to fight him, but I guess we'll have to see what happens. Then we've got, so this is mainly going to be about Devin Haney now, and just around that 140-pound division, like who Devin Haney could fight. So Oscar De La Hoya has said it's time for Gervonta Davis to fight the real kings. Gervonta Davis has been called out by Devin Haney. I don't know if that's a bit of a dig at Ryan Garcia from Oscar De La Hoya there, because Ryan Garcia is known as the King, Ryan the King Garcia, or King Rye. That might be a dig at Ryan Garcia, but I do think Gervonta Davis really needs to step up his level of opponent. His last fight was against Ryan Garcia, who was the biggest fight of his career, but he needs to have more fights like that, because I don't personally think I rate him in my top 10 pound for pound, and I'm going to be doing a video about that soon. I don't think I rate him in my top 10 pound for pound because he's not really had that constant level of opposition, like a high level of opposition. I think Haney's fought a much higher level of competition than what Gervonta Davis has. Yes, Gervonta Davis has the knockouts of his opponents, but I don't think his opponent level is as high as Devin Haney's, which is why I rank Devin Haney and possibly Shakur Stevenson ahead of Gervonta Davis. Davis's trainer has also told Bill Haney to focus on Devin Haney, not Tank. So he's basically saying how he's focused on his son instead of Tank. But again, Gervonta Davis needs to step up his level of opponents next year, because he's going to lose fans. People are starting to see, I think, that he's being manoeuvred through his career, and I think people are starting to see how he's basically cherry picking his opponents. Yeah, I do want to see Gervonta Davis have at least 2 high level fights next year, and then I'd probably rate him in my top 10 pound for pound. Then Eddie Hearn, who's now Devin Haney's promoter, has predicted 3 mega fights for him in 2024. I think I've seen that he wants the 3 fights to be Ryan Garcia early in the year, and then before Ramadan, and then he wants Teofimo Lopez June or July, and then he wants Gervonta Davis at the end of the year. If he wins all of those fights, I would say he is probably at least in my top 3 pound for pound. If he wins all of those fights, if he has that schedule next year, he'd be in my top 10 pound for pound. Because imagine that, like, his last 5 fights would be Lomachenko, Prograis, Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez, and Gervonta Davis, and they're like, most of them, I'd say, probably 3 of them are either just outside the top 10 or top 10 ranked in a pound for pound. So that's a ridiculous resume if he can do those 3 fights. I don't see him having those 3 fights. The WBC have also ordered, or are expected to order, Devin Haney to defend against Sandor Martin, who's beaten Mikey Garcia, and he's also beaten Teofimo Lopez. Oh no, he lost to Teofimo Lopez, so in a close decision. But I don't think that's Teofimo Lopez at his best. He lacked confidence, and also Sandor Martin was just a bit of an awkward, tricky fighter. I think that's it for... Oh, sorry. So Ryan Garcia also wants to fight Liam Parrow, who fought in the co-main event of Devin Haney's fight on the weekend. He had a big knockout of Montana Love. He also wants to fight, or he also called out Devin Haney, so I think he'd probably have one of those fights. If I would probably hope that he fights Parrow first, just because he didn't look amazing in his last fight. Yeah, he got the knockout, but I'd rather he fights Parrow first. And then just to, because I think he would probably beat Parrow, but just to like build his confidence up a bit more, and adapt more to Derek James. But there's one thing here that I think is important when we're talking about Eddie Hearn saying that he thinks Devin Haney will have 3 fights. There's Teofimo Lopez is expected to fight Matias in, I think it's June. There's rumours of that fight happening, which would be a big unification fight. To be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing just the 2 fights next year for Devin Haney, and he fights, if Lopez and Matias fight, that would be their unification, and I wouldn't mind seeing Garcia fight Romero earlier in the year, for the WBA title, and then him and Haney having a fight in the middle of next year, and then undisputed fight at the end of the year, and then potentially Devin Haney could move up, or he could defend it a couple of times like he did his 135 pound undisputed title. Wouldn't mind seeing that, especially if Devin Haney needs to have a defence against Sandor Martin at some point in the year. Yeah, that's pretty much it, I'd say, to be honest, for this weekend's boxing, or this week's boxing news. There's a lot of just talk about Devin Haney and what's next, really, because I think he's become a bit of a star in boxing now. I'd say definitely after that win against Prograis, everyone now knows how great Devin Haney is. So I think he's got a lot of options. There's going to be a lot of talk about him, but I think Gervonta Davis seriously needs to fight some better people next year. He needs to fight a better level of opposition. I think everybody out of those 4 kings, so it was Lopez, Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia, and Devin Haney, I think Gervonta Davis has had the joint worst resume with, or probably 3rd worst resume with Ryan Garcia, sorry. So Ryan Garcia 4th resume, Gervonta Davis 3rd, Lopez 2nd, I'd probably say, and Haney 1st. Yeah, but you could swap Haney and Lopez either way. I'd also like to throw Shakur Stevenson into that mix. He's obviously had a better resume than Gervonta Davis as well, with his wins over Oscar Valdez and Jamel Herring. I'd also say that we do have a bit of a special or it could be a special time in boxing at the moment with the £135, £140, £147. There's just loads of predominantly American talent, but there's also like some English talent like Jack Catterall. There's also some talent from other countries like around those divisions. So it's going to be a really big time for those divisions. If fights could be constantly made between like all the champions, boxing could get back to the best it's been for a very long time, and I'm excited to see it. Hopefully, with the Saudi money, with just everything, hopefully everyone will be able to work together more to create bigger fights. Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. If you'd like to, please could you like and comment on the videos. Also subscribe if you like the channel. Thank you, guys.